Hello, Divorce and Beyond family. I've got some exciting news because we have teamed up with Headspace to guide you toward better mental health. With Headspace's meditation, mindfulness tools, and mental health support, you're set for a journey to a happier, healthier you. And there's more because if you sign up through our exclusive link, you'll enjoy 2 weeks of Headspace membership for free. So don't miss out on this opportunity to embrace your well-being. You can check out the show notes for the link or just go to divorcebeyond.com/headspace-Susan, and you'll be able to start your path to peace and joy today. This is just one more way that we can support you on your journey to a better beyond.
Coming up on today's episode of the Divorce and Beyond podcast.
You actually need competence, not companionship. The best attorneys are going to always tell you the truth, even when you don't like it. And in fact, that is the hardest part of our job in many cases, is that we have to give information to our clients that they need in order to make the best decisions. It's not about being liked. It's not about saying what you want to hear. It's about saying what you need to hear. Hello, and welcome to the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host. As a top divorce attorney and family law mediator for 30 years, I know what you need to know to get through your divorce, and most importantly, how to move beyond it to thrive and transition to your new future. My experts and I are here to give you the insider view into the process, so listen in for the wisdom and expert information you need on your journey through divorce and beyond. Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host. And today, listeners, I have a special treat for you because I realized it's been quite some time since I did a solo episode with you all, something where I can share some of my insights from my many years as a divorce practitioner in a lot of different ways. And so this week, what I'll be doing is sharing some of my insider tips on working effectively with your divorce attorney so that you can save time, money, and stress. So these are my personal insights gathered over my 35 years in practice. And, if you do know me, well, let me just say, for those of you who don't know me, let me just give you a little bit of background on my practice, because I have been practicing in family law for 35 years. Yes, 1990 is when I first became an attorney, and I have been a family law attorney pretty much my entire career. I started out pretty traditionally as a family law litigator, what you think of as someone who goes to court, represents clients in a courtroom, and while not in court is negotiating on the outside. And frankly, most of the time we settled cases, but we were always ready to go to court. After about 20 years of that, and it was a very long 20 years, I transitioned to becoming a mediator. And I've talked about that story in other episodes. You can go back and find any of the episodes on mediation. You'll hear me talk about it. But what I had realized over 20 years of litigation is that it's not particularly client nor family friendly. It does not help people transition to the next part of their lives, their beyond, in a very positive, family forward manner. It's very, in fact, destructive because it's so adversarial. So I transitioned to mediation. I still to this day think that mediation is for most families one of the best ways to move through the divorce process. Toward the end of my 35 years, I also worked as a legal coach for clients because I was moving around the country and I'm only licensed to practice law in 2 states. So I worked with clients who were in other states to support them by giving them some legal insights without being able to give them legal advice. But one of the things I knew after, at that point, 30 plus years of practicing as a divorce attorney is that I had learned a lot that I could share with people, whether I was their attorney or I was just supporting them as they went through the divorce practice. So that gives you a little rundown on what sort of goes behind all of these insights that I'll share with you today. The other thing that I do want to mention is the largest part of my practice was in an area of Connecticut, Fairfield County. It's a commuter county outside of New York City. Most of the professionals are high-level C-suite professionals, financial professionals who work in Manhattan, go back and forth. It includes towns like Greenwich that you may have heard of, Darien, Westport. It's a very high-income area, home to a lot of hedge funds. And so my practice involved a lot of high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals and couples and families. And I say that only to let you know that it means that I managed and handled very high net worth and complicated financial matters. And in addition to that, my clients were fortunate in being able to hire some of the best teams of expert professionals for their case, meaning the best parenting experts, the best financial experts, the best CPAs and forensic accountants. They were able to really afford what many people cannot afford, and that is, the top tier A-class team. In addition to my learning over all these years from my own practice, I was really lucky to get to learn from all my other colleagues in the divorce space as we work together. So I'm going to pull that all together today into some insider tips, me being the insider, for you to get the most out of your divorce attorney. My goal is to empower you to navigate your divorce efficiently and wisely. And I think you'll see why I chose those 2 words when we get to the end of this episode. So let's just get going. Let's start with my first insider tip. This one is something that I think everyone at some point in their divorce process forgets. Your attorney is a professional. They are not your friend. They are not your friend. They are there to support you in a professional manner. They're not your friend, and that is a good thing. I know that we want to work with someone that we like, and I'm not saying to go hire someone you don't like. But your attorney's job is to give you sound legal advice, not to be there to support your emotional content or to validate those emotions. And that's why hiring the right attorney truly matters. Do not hire the first attorney who makes you feel good because they say the right things about, oh, he's a bastard, she's a gold digger, whatever those things are. And yes, I was very generalized with those comments, right? But many times when you go into a divorce attorney and you're interviewing them, and remember, that's what it is. You are interviewing them to work for you. Some practitioners will tell you what you want to hear. And while that may feel good in the moment, you actually need competence, not companionship. The best attorneys are going to always tell you the truth, even when you don't like it. And in fact, that is the hardest part of our job in many cases, is that we have to give information to our clients that they need in order to make the best decisions. It's not about being liked. It's not about saying what you want to hear. It's about saying what you need to hear. Here's a couple of red flags that I want you to look out for when you're hiring an attorney. So one, those promises that sound too good to be true. If you go into an attorney's office for an initial consult and they tell you, don't worry, we'll take them to the cleaners, we'll get you everything that you want, we're really good at this and this is what we do, that should be a red flag. No one can guarantee you as to what they're going to get you, and certainly not on the first time or second time or third time even that they talk to you. I also want you to be on the lookout for an aggressive, win at all costs mentality, because that disregards negotiation. I'm going to talk to you about the importance of negotiation and the emphasis on negotiation. And an attorney who goes in and puts those gloves on is honestly not what you're looking for and should be another red flag. And when you ask questions about their responsiveness, how long does it take them to get back to you, how busy are they, and about their billing practices, and if they are not clear and transparent about those things, big, huge red flag, couple of big, huge red flags. Those are questions you should be asking, and you want clear, understandable answers on those. Tip number 1, your attorney is your professional that works for you. They are not your friend. This is not the time to go buy a friend. This is the time to go buy the most and hire the most supportive and helpful professional that you can find. Insider tip number 2, your attorney is also not your therapist, so don't waste your money treating them like one. And this is really one of the most common things that I saw throughout all of my years of practice. In fact, I've talked about this on other episodes. I had one client who would call me up and she would start the conversation with, "I know you can't do anything about this as my attorney, but I just want to vent." And what that should tell you is I had told her that I completely understood and commiserated as a human being with what she was telling me, complaining about her soon-to-be ex-husband most of the time or something that he had done, but that as her attorney, whatever it was that he had done fell outside the bounds of what I legally could impact, right? So basically what she was doing was exactly what she said. She was venting to me. But what I want you to realize is my hourly fee for that venting, which was 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending, was hundreds of dollars. And at the end, my response to her was always, as a human being, I feel for you. But as your attorney, there is nothing that I can do about this, or there are limited things that I can do about this. And as we have discussed, it's probably more expensive to do the things that we can, and they're not likely to get the results that you want. Many divorcing people make the mistake of using their attorney for emotional support. And I get it, because many people, you're paying a huge amount of money to this attorney for their expertise. And they do know a lot about what is going on. They've been through, if you've hired an experienced attorney, you have hired someone who has been through this process of divorce many, many, many times with clients. And so they do have a lot of knowledge about it. But that doesn't mean that they are effective emotional support. Some may be, some may not be. We're not all warm and fuzzy people. Some people are better at it. Some people are not. So you may have an attorney who's great at it. Doesn't mean that you should use them for that, because legal fees are expensive. Do not waste them on therapy sessions. The example I always use for clients is, your attorney's probably $300 to $600 or $700 an hour. Those are averages. It can go way higher. It might be lower, but not much lower, not much lower. Whereas most therapists or coaches are going to be $100, $200 an hour. So just do the math on that. Not to mention that you're going to have somebody then who is trained in being your emotional support, who can give you actual helpful tips and insights on how to manage your emotions, which is so important during your divorce process. So don't use your attorney as your therapist or coach. Get one. And that backs up to another thing that I always tell clients and always told them in the initial consultation with me, is that it's really important for you to have a divorce team. In fact, your team should be made up of the attorney. Yes, the attorney is a given, right? Because the divorce is a legal process. It's, getting married is a legal process. Yes, it's a wedding and all the romance and flowers and all of that. But at its core, marriage is a legal relationship. It's created legally and it can only be undone legally. So you will need an attorney, but there are others that you should need. One, I've already mentioned, a therapist or a coach. There is probably no other time in your life when you are going to be more emotional than you are during a divorce. And so getting emotional support so that you can get emotional clarity, so that you can make reasonable and reasoned decisions is critical. So critical. In fact, I've said on many episodes before now, I think the first person that you should hire is a divorce coach, because then you will choose your other team members not from a basis of emotion, but from a place of clarity, mental clarity. The other person that you may want to have on your team, I think that they're a necessity, but again, not everybody's budget can afford them. Do keep in mind that having a good one will probably save you more money than they cost, but having a financial advisor or a CDFA involved, not that your attorney won't have good understanding of finances, but somebody who can help you do your financial planning, your budgeting, and your forward focus so that your beyond is financially supported to the best ability that it can be, that's a CDFA. So having that well-rounded team actually saves you money and will get you best results, better results. Don't use your attorney as a therapist or coach. Don't waste your money and get your team pulled together. All right, my next insider tip here. Communication is key when it comes to your attorney because your lawyer can't read your mind. We are not mind readers. We need to hear from you what your priorities, your concerns, and your goals are. And to go back to talking about the coach up there and your financial advisor, you know who's going to help you get clarity on your priorities, concerns, and goals? Yes, your coach and your financial advisor. That's one of the reasons why they're very important team members. Your attorney is the one who then takes those priorities, concerns, and goals and tries to negotiate and help you construct a divorce settlement that helps you get there, right? So you need to be able to express all of this to your attorney. You need to communicate with them. So your attorney needs to know what really matters to you when it comes to custody, your financial security, and your future goals. Do you know what your must-haves and your can-live-withouts are? Work with your coach, work with your CDFA to find out so you can communicate that to your attorney. They need to know where you are willing to compromise and where you are not. And let me be clear here. You cannot draw a line in the sand and say you are not willing to compromise on anything. You will end up in a courtroom if you are not willing to compromise. And the last place you want to be, I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but the last place you want to be is in a courtroom with a judge deciding your future, because guess who's not going to give you everything that you want either in 99.9% of the cases? The judge. And they need to know on an ongoing basis about immediate concerns and needs. So here's one of the things many people don't understand is, yes, your attorney needs to know where you want to get to at the end of your divorce, but they also need to know what's happening in the now. And the two of you, you and your attorney, need to strategize about what about the now absolutely should be addressed. Things like interim support, interim custodial situations, parenting plans, and what is not in the moment, does not need to be dealt with right now. It would have been nice, but it's not worth the effort, because you need to also remember all the energy that you put into dealing with immediate issues takes your attorney and your case away from trying to get you to the end goal, to the finish line. Be judicious, communicate with your attorney, and come up with a strategy about what you're going to deal with in the now And is it worth taking time away from getting you to the end? People always ask, why is my divorce taking so long? One of the biggest reasons is because all you're dealing with is day in and day out stuff, and you're not giving any time and energy because there is none to give toward getting the case over with. So how do you keep your divorce moving forward? What can you do on your side of the fence as the client? One, respond to your attorney in a timely manner. Do not be the reason for delays. Just because your spouse is delaying or just because your attorney might be delayed, remember that you are not their only client. And sometimes we spend days in court. But good attorneys are going to get back to you, or at least have a staff member get back to you. And if they aren't, communicate with your attorney that that's not acceptable to you, that you need some sort of response, even if it's just an acknowledgement of the receipt of your email or text and a comment that I'm on trial or I won't be able to speak to you until a different date or time. You want to keep your communication clear and organized. Use things like bullet points. Use email or document requests with your attorney. And instead of sending a blizzard of small texts and emails every time a notion hits your mind, because it's going to, this is like, all consuming, so much is going on. Instead of firing them off in just a big, huge, barrage, collect them in one place, organize them, and then send one orderly email to your attorney, or make one phone call to review it all. That also gives you an opportunity to curate your questions, because what seems like an emergency in the moment, given a couple of deep breaths and a little, thought, sometimes it's not. And be sure to always ask your attorney questions, but don't micromanage. Remember that one of the things you are paying for is their expertise in maneuvering the legal process. So absolutely ask questions, but also understand that you are paying for that expertise. And if you are feeling like your case isn't being managed well, that's one of those red flags you need to discuss deeper. And here's another thing about communication that I have always told clients. It is not the worst thing in the world if you realize in the middle of your relationship, I'll call it, with your attorney, that it's time to break up. Okay, so all you need to do at that point is communicate to your attorney that you feel like your case would be better handled by someone else. You are the client. You have the right to be represented by someone who you feel confident in. And if you have lost your feeling of confidence in your current attorney, you have a right to change. But what I do suggest, because of the time and money you will have spent with that attorney up to that point, is that you sit down with them first and have a come to Jesus moment talk with them and explain to them what you feel they are doing wrong or what would work better for you, and see if the relationship can be managed, because again, they aren't mind readers. And so you need to express clearly to your attorney what you need from them and ask for those adjustments in the relationship. You would do that in a personal relationship, I hope. So I would like you to do that in your divorce attorney relationship. It's really one of the things so many people neglect to do. And what will end up happening is you'll either fire them and move on to another attorney, which does have its downsides. You'll end up having someone else start over new. They'll have to get up to speed on everything. It takes time. They'll end up having to spend time reviewing stuff that your other attorney was already paid to review, but they have to do it to get up to speed. So it can be a lot of expense. It can delay your case, but certainly in the end, you hopefully end up with an attorney that you do have trust in. Or even worse, you just go along with an attorney who's not meeting your needs, who you don't have confidence in because you never say anything to them and you don't fire them. And then when your divorce does not end as you would have liked it to end, you're going to blame that attorney, but you always had the power to change that relationship. I just want you to think about that. All right, so now I've covered some of the key strategies for making sure your divorce attorney is working for you and not against your budget. But there is still more to unpack coming up in the second half, I'm going to reveal why focusing on your future is the single most important thing you can do during your divorce, even when your attorney is stuck in the past. Plus, I'll explain how to know when to push for negotiation and when to stand firm in court. And perhaps most importantly, why your attorney is not a magician, no matter how much you wish they were. Before we dive back into the rest of the episode, however, I want to take a brief break for a promo from one of our sponsors. Now, let's take a little minute to talk about something special. If you follow me on Instagram, you all know how much I love my evil eye pendant. I love I have my bracelet. I have the pendant that goes around my neck. I wear evil eyes all the time. And so many of you have reached out asking where I got them. I'm thrilled to share with you all, drum roll please, that my favorite jewelry source, Yumi You Jewelry, is now a sponsor of Divorce and Beyond. For me, Yumi You Jewelry is more than just jewelry. The symbols are symbols of strength, individuality, and empowerment. And they handcraft each piece with love and care. And so they are designed to help women stand out and embrace our unique personalities. So whether it's an evil eye like I have chosen for protection, a hamsa for faith, or any other meaningful symbol, their pieces offer beauty and inspiration even during these tough times like divorce. So here's the best part. Yumi You is giving my listeners an exclusive discount if you use the code BEYOND, that's BEYOND, all caps, at checkout. You'll get 20% off your order. 20%. So if you're looking for a meaningful piece to keep you inspired or to protect you during this difficult time, visit divorcebeyond.com/YumiYou. That's YUMIYU. And treat yourself or treat someone you love to something special. You deserve it. Now, let's get back to the second half of the show. All right, so welcome back to the episode. Let's dive back in. So insider tip number 4, and I alluded to this before the break, but you as the client need to be focused on your future. Even when your attorney is focused on your past, and they very likely will be, because litigation, divorce litigation, any kind of litigation, right? It's rooted in the past. It is all about what has already happened. Who earned what? Who did what? Who spent what? Who did this with the children? What? Who did that, right? It's all rooted on what has happened in the past because that's evidence and that's what goes on in court. And so your attorney, even if they're negotiating forward for you to try and get you divorced through negotiation and settlement, the job of the attorney is to focus on gathering evidence and preparing for court. Even though the chances that you're actually going to go to trial are super slim. In fact, less than 5% of divorce cases actually go to trial. Less than 5%. It's more like 2 to 3%. So, but your attorney has to prepare. This is an ethical duty that we have. They have to be prepared as if you're going to trial, if you're going to be one of those 2 to 3%, because if you turn out to be one of those 2 to 3%, you want your attorney to be ready to go in the courtroom. And in the courtroom, right, your attorney, that's where they shine. That's where they do what they do. And so they will always be preparing your case, even while negotiating you forward to the future. They're going to be preparing that case. So someone in this working group, you and your attorney and hopefully your other professionals, but someone's got to be focused on the future because that's where you're going. So instead of you dwelling on what went wrong, which is so easy to do, I want you to imagine and plan for the life you want after this divorce. Look forward to that future because future-focused negotiation is going to help you negotiate toward a better settlement rather than just reacting to legal maneuvers. And you'll be able to have a clearer vision for what you will need financially and emotionally post-divorce. So many people negotiate their divorce in this vacuum of the past, which can't be changed, and nothing's going to, be redone about the past. And then they get their divorce finalized with a settlement, with support, with a parenting plan, and realize because they put so little thought and effort and time into thinking about what they wanted their future to look like, their settlement doesn't work very well for them, and they could have negotiated something much better. So you, the client, should spend as much time as you can forward focused, and then be communicating to the last, tip number 3, be communicating what that future looks like for you to your attorney. So important. All right, I've mentioned negotiation a lot, and I do want to bring that into these insider tips because tip number 5, the best divorce attorneys are skilled negotiators. Everybody thinks it's all about the litigator who goes into the courtroom and beats up the other side with a law book. And that's part of that job in 2 to 3% of cases, right? We talked about that a minute ago. But the actual goal for a good attorney is not to win a divorce. It is to get the best outcome for your future and your children's future. That, unless that's your definition of a win, which it is mine, right? But winning the case by going in there and beating the other side, that's not how you win a case. You win a case by getting the best outcome for the client and their children. And a truly skillful attorney aims for a settlement first and not those courtroom battles. So if your attorney is constantly saying, well, let's just go to court, that should be a red flag for you because court is going to ramp up the animosity. It's going to ramp up the fees, and it is going to keep you further and further away from your end goal of being done with this. So the reality of litigation is that it's often coercive, expensive, and goodness knows it is emotionally draining, right? You are not going to walk out of that courtroom the same person who walked in, and that will happen each and every time you walk into that courtroom. Because even when court is necessary, and it is necessary at times, go listen to the episode with Mark Gorelick. Mark is a wonderful litigator in California, deals with a lot of high conflict and really difficult cases where just they are those 2 to 3%, right? When you need that attorney who's going to do that, Mark's your guy. So some cases it's necessary, but Mark even said in that episode, no one walks away happy. Resentment and ill will are the usual outcomes of any litigated case. And then what do? We cut you loose and you have to go forward and co-parent or coexist in the world with all of the negativity that end result, that trial brought you. So smart lawyers, good lawyers are always working to negotiate because a good settlement is better than a bad trial. And the more cooperative your process, meaning your negotiation process, the way you bring about the end of your divorce, the more cooperative that process, the better for your children and your co-parenting relationship. All right, insider tip that I want you to remember, and this is a key one as well. You, the client, make the decisions, not your lawyer. Your attorney is there to provide legal advice and guidance, but you are the decision maker. I've always said to clients, because they always say, well, what would you do? And I can say, it doesn't really matter what I would do because this is your life. At the end of the day, I go home to my life and you will go home to the life that bears the consequences of the decisions that you make. So those are decisions that you, the client, should make. You need to remember that every legal move has a financial and an emotional cost. So before you take it, make sure it's worth it. So if it's going to be filing a motion, or if it's going to be, sending off a nastygram to your spouse's attorney, or whatever thing that you're going to do, make sure it's worth it. Learn to do a cost benefit analysis because you need to stay in control of your case. So how do you do that? Get clear on your goals early in the case. Go all the way back up to number 1, get a good coach. They're going to help you with this. Get a good financial advisor. They're going to help you set those goals. Anytime that you are faced with making a decision, a legal option, weigh the risks and benefits. And if you don't know what they are, ask your attorney to do a cost-benefit analysis with you. They can give you an estimate of what it's going to cost to go to court, what it's going to cost to send that motion, what it's going to cost to send out that nastygram. They'll also be able to give you an idea, and I think you know as well, the emotional escalation that these things are going to cause. And most importantly, do not let emotions drive your decisions. You need to think strategically, and that is where you need to lean on your team. Most importantly, not your attorney, right? I said they are not your therapist, they are not your coach. So when your emotions are starting to drive your decisions, that is your immediate flashing red light to reach out to your coach so that you can think strategically, not emotionally. Number 7, and this is my last insight. This one's really, all of them are important, but this one is the one, I think this is a phrase I have said to every single client I've ever had. If any of you are out there listening, I know you're going to nod when you hear this. Your attorney is not a magician. Manage your expectations because that law degree did not come with a magic wand or a crystal ball. It did not. It gave us skills and understanding of the law and how to take that law and the facts of each individual case and use them to advocate for your client's position. That is what a lawyer is. We don't make any of the decisions in the case. Only the judge can do that. We can't tell your ex to do anything. We can't make them do anything. It is very important for you to understand that you have to have realistic expectations as to what the legal process can achieve for you. And your attorney is merely the conduit to the legal process. So attorneys, they cannot make your spouse behave or change their personality. They are who you married or who they turned into after you married them, whatever it is. But nothing we do as attorneys is going to fundamentally change them. They are who they are. And all we can do is try to manage some of those behaviors if the law provides a process to do that. And there's very little about the law that's going to turn someone into a good co-parent or a good ex-spouse if they don't already have that in them. In fact, there's much about the law that will deteriorate both of those roles. So we also cannot force your spouse to be reasonable. If they're being unreasonable, they're being unreasonable. We can't change that. And in many cases, their own attorney can't change that. And finally, we cannot predict the exact outcome of your case. And if any attorney tells you they can, red flag, go up to the top of this episode. That should be a red flag for you. We don't know what will happen. We know likelihoods. We know what the law says. And once we've had a good amount of experience, we have a good idea what a court might do, what a judge might do in certain cases. But I think you can also find out from any attorney that in most courthouses, say you have 2, 3, maybe 4 family court judges on any given day. And any good attorney is going to tell you that you could go in and argue the same exact case to each one of those 4 judges, and you'll probably get 4 different decisions because judges don't have magic wands either. Divorce is an area full of legal gray areas. There are no guarantees in family law. If everything was black and white in family law, then you wouldn't need divorce attorneys. There wouldn't be $600 an hour attorneys who are going to go in and fight things out for you. You wouldn't need us. You wouldn't need to go through this long, drawn out process because it's all black and white. It would be simple, but life is complicated. Divorce is complicated, and it's complicated for a reason because that black and white ending is a cookie cutter ending that is one size fits all. And the reality for families is that no family is cookie cutter. And so you need the ability to craft something that works best for your individual family's needs. And that's why there's so much gray area and discretion and room to negotiate in family law cases. Do remember that your attorney is not a magician. We went to law school. We have a law degree. We passed a bar exam, and we have skills at making legal arguments, applying facts in law, and being reasoned in our approach to things. That does not make us magic. I wish it did. I wish it did. So the best you can do when it comes to the law is prepare, make informed choices, and focus on what you can control. And you can find all of that out by discussing it and thinking about this after discussing this with your attorney. All right, so those are my top insights. I'm going to summarize them quickly into my golden nuggets section, the key takeaways from this episode for you all. Right? So 1, your attorney is a professional, not your friend, so hire wisely. 2, use the right expert for the right job. Do not waste money using your attorney for emotional support. Golden nugget number 3, communicate clearly with your attorney. They cannot advocate for what they don't know. They can't negotiate you to a future they don't understand. It is up to you to make sure that you let your goals and needs be known. 4, keep your eyes on the future, even when the process forces you to focus on the past, because the future is where you are going. 5, a skilled attorney will help you settle. Litigation should be your last resort. It may sound easier to just go to court and let the judge decide. Trust me, 35 years of practice tell me litigation is never easier. You make your own decisions in a negotiation, and it's much easier to live with what you can accept rather than what is imposed on you by a judge. Next golden nugget, your attorney advises you, but you decide. You need to take ownership of your divorce process. The best way to do that is to have a great team who empowers you, who gives you the information that you need, and helps you come up with your goals and your focus toward the future so that you can move in that direction. And finally, no one in this process, including your attorney, including you, including the judge, or any of your other professionals, has a magic wand. You need to manage your expectations, focus on what you can control so that you can get to that beautiful beyond, right? Remember why I named this podcast Divorce and Beyond. I never wanted anyone to think that it's all about the divorce. It's really all about the beyond. And I promise you, when you get there, life will get better. Thank you for joining me today on the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I hope you found some information and inspiration to help you on this journey. Please join me every Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a new episode. And if you like the show, please take the time to subscribe and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. You can also find more information on the website at divorceandbeyondpod.com, where you'll find links to the YouTube channel, transcripts of the episodes, and other bonus content. So I'll see you next week to help you move through your divorce and beyond.